You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. As always, please share, like, follow, comment, leave us a review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on iTunes, subscribe. We want to further the reach of this content, and that helps that happen. Another thing, if you are on Facebook, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group, where we can further these discussions from the podcast in there. Today we have another successful roofing contractor. This is that exponential growth story that I love so much. And I'll let him tell his story. But Miguel Taveras from Blue Hammer Roofing down in the DFW. What's going on, man? How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Awesome,
man. So give everyone a little information how you got into the roofing business, and then how you guys started Blue Hammer and the growth that you guys have seen in such a short amount of time.
Sure. It's a really interesting story, and I feel like everybody who gets into the roofing world, it's usually not the field where you're sitting in middle school and you're like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to own a roofing company. So everybody's story who gets here is really interesting. Mine is pretty similar. And my dad and my stepmom, they owned an insurance licensing company, Insurance Licensing Services of America. And they were involved in construction as well. And once I left college, I started getting into property as well. It was really fascinated with flipping homes and things like that. So this was a logical kind of intersection, storm-based repairs of that insurance licensing background plus the construction and remodeling background. I did work for another roofing company for a while. And then I was a public adjuster for a while too. So when it came time to launch Blue Hammer, there was a lot of thoughts that went into it, of years of experience of seeing what worked really well, what didn't work very well, and what I thought nobody was doing. I'm a big fan of what's called white space, and figuring out, okay, what's that white space, and let's really capitalize on that in a sense that no one else really is. So our business model, like I said, is a little bit different. We have 5 managing partners, where most roofing companies are 1, maybe 2 people. But the whole thought process was, hey, we want to explode out in the scene. And the only way to do that is to subdivide the tasks in a way that nobody's really doing. So my 4 co-managing partners are just phenomenal in their space. I have Neil Kaiser, who's just phenomenal with recruitment, leadership, and bringing people out into the field. And then really just extracting that extra hidden 20% that people don't even know that they have. There's Freddie Murphy. He's our chief quality officer, and he kind of created an aspect of the field that no one is really doing to the degree that he is. And it's resulting in us getting referrals at every job 2-to-1 ratio. We do 1 job, we get 2 referrals. So that's been critical for us as well. Maria Wynn, she runs our back end. She's just a workhorse. She'll be sending messages at 1 a.m. and just really keeps everybody organized. And then we have Christian, who we affectionately call Chico Jimenez, and he leads our troops in a battle. Every day he's organizing our guys, where our installs are, what we need to do. And then I'm just the lucky guy who gets to work with these 4 guys. So my job's the easiest.
So you get the face of the company, right?
No, actually, Neil, he's the face.
Neil is
If you
also
see him, he looks like Maluma, so he's definitely the face of the company. I like to say he's the heart of the company, and I'm kind of the brains, and
okay.
that's how things work really well. He's a great public speaker. He's a great person. He's great with leadership. So he does more of those things, and I
Yeah.
have ideas and things on the back end, and kind of that existing knowledge that I've brought to the table.
That's interesting and unique. And so you guys have grown from zero to what'd you do over 8 figures in your first year in business?
Yeah, we did. And it for us, it was actually interesting because this was the first year I can remember where DFW did not get a major storm. So we
Yeah,
launched, DFW didn't get a major storm, and then we also had a pandemic to deal with. So there was a lot of challenges, and it kind of forced us. We had a 3-year plan. It forced us to pull some aspects of things that we wanted to do later down the road into our first year. So it was very challenging, but helped us grow to a large extent as well.
that's great. How did this team come together?
Some of it was logical, and some of it was biological.
Okay.
So Freddie, he's my cousin. So
Okay.
I've known him for a long time because of that, and we had worked together at a former roofing company as well. So we had ideas that we shared there. Neil, and believe it or not, Neil, who's the heart of the company, I had met him probably 3 times before we agreed to partner together. But I can tell you, in this industry, you see a click when you meet
Yeah.
somebody who just has it. And I've seen it with roofers. I can tell within probably 10, 15 minutes of meeting someone what type of salesman they're going to be. And I'm like, oh, that one's going to be one of our A+ players. That one's going to be a B player. That one. And I met Neil, and it was exactly that. I knew that he was an A+ caliber guy. So I had no qualms about partnering with him. And we talked about it a bunch, and he said, I feel the same thing about you guys as well. So Chico and Maria were both really good friends with Neil, and he brought them on. And then Freddie's my cousin, and
Yeah.
he was $1 million plus player as a salesman himself, and he had great ideas as well. So once we all sat down at a table, there were 2 things that happened. One, we all vibed to an extent. It was just jokes and laughter, and it felt like these were more like my siblings and family than people I was going to do business with. So anytime you feel that sort of vibe, it helps a lot. And I could also tell that all 5 of us were pretty much the pinnacle of what we were doing. And roofing itself isn't hard, but getting people who are going to work hard and going to really apply themselves to that level that you need, that's where things kind of change.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people try to do this all themselves,
Yeah.
right? And it's a challenge,
Yeah.
especially when you want to grow at a certain pace. Were there any concerns that you guys managed in developing your partnership, and how did, like, any concerns that anyone had that you addressed that you think might be helpful to other people forming
Oh
partnerships?
yeah, absolutely. So the thing that can happen when you have 5 alphas who come together is, and you see this with super teams in basketball or championship teams, where everyone wants the ball. Everyone's like, no, I need the glory. And it was just it's been a very concentrated effort in the fact that for us to achieve what we want to achieve, everyone's going to need to pass the ball. And at different points in time, Kobe's going to do a layup for Shaq, and Shaq's going to pass the ball in the wide open space for Kobe. And as long as that happens, you have a 3-peat championship team. So there was a lot of that was very deliberate of assigning. And I can't tell you how many meetings we've had where we're like, okay, assigning executive roles. Let's make sure, we know exactly what our lane is, and let's dominate that space. So on the daily, what's different from us and a lot of other people is Neil doesn't check in with me. Maria doesn't check in with me. Chico doesn't check in with me, and neither does Freddie, and vice versa with all of us. we know every day. I don't need to know what you're doing. I know you're going to do what you need to do for us to win. And that's one thing that, like, sometimes people will ask me, someone's like, oh, what's Neil doing today? I'm like, whatever he needs to do for us to win. What's Freddie doing? Oh yeah. I might have a vague sense, but I don't need to micromanage my business partners to that extent, because I know we're all in the field, we're all doing what we need to do, and however that is for that day.
Yeah, and that's what the most successful partnerships that I've come across and had conversations with are of that same value system. And that's what my business partner and us of our roofer marketers, we have that same thing. He
Yeah.
manages the fulfillment of our services, and I do business development, and we know our lanes. He doesn't know what I'm doing. I don't know what he's doing half the time, but we just do what we do, our jobs, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because it is, I had Dustin Beegler of Apple Roofing on here, and him and his business partner, they kind of look at themselves as employees. He mentioned something that I thought was interesting. Him and his business partner think of themselves as employees of the business in the roles that they're assigned. And with that mentality, they go and do their job, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it sounds like you guys have done something very similar in that regard.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and studying championship culture, studying championship, especially sports teams. A lot of our guys come from a fitness kind of background, and that's one of the things we've discussed a lot and talk about a lot is different championship teams and what they had to do, especially the ones with these players that are all alphas. How
Yes.
do and I'm not just saying us as the executives, that trickles down to our salesmen as well, where um, breeding that mentality that because player X is doing well, that actually helps you. And it's a competition, but it's also, hey, you need to look out for the guy to your left and the guy to your right. Um, with Neil has an interesting saying about the Spartans and how the worst thing you could do in battle wasn't drop your spear, it was drop your shield, because then you let the guy to your right and to your left down. If worst comes to worst, you need to make sure that you're defending those guys who are around you and who are relying on you. And that's kind of what we tell our guys, like, yeah, go out, make sure you win, but don't ever do it at the detriment of anybody else who's on the team. Because I've unfortunately seen that before as well.
Yeah.
When I was a public adjuster, you'd hear companies where the top salesman would actually knock doors of the new salesman and say, hey, you don't want to go with that guy. You want to go with me. I'm a senior guy at this company. So just little things like that, and making sure that we cut those weeds from growing before they ever have time to germinate. And
Yeah.
that's really, really important for us.
And so you guys have definitely grown, not just in terms of revenue, but you've grown in terms of people, right?
Hmm.
Of people on the team.
Yeah.
What does that growth look like? How many sales people do you have and things like that right now?
Yeah, I think earlier today, Maria sent out a count and it was like 47, 50 people. And we'll probably be at, I would say 75 to 100 by the end of the year. We're getting probably 20, 30 people a week who are coming in and wanting to work with us. And up until last week, where we hired about 10, it's usually the small percent of those people who we're bringing on board every week, every month. But it gets easier if you make sure that from the ground level you bring in the right people. It just gets exponentially easier because those people know other people who are good people as well, and that just keeps trickling. That rope that's out there, and also our social media has helped us a lot with the growth as well. Just making sure that the right people we're in front of the right people's eyes in any sort of platform, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, just Google searching. That we're very, very social media conscious.
Yeah. And so to bring on that amount of people
Yep.
in, I mean, what, about a year? How long,
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy in itself, right?
Yeah.
Like that is so let's back that up a little bit. What was like, how how did you find the initial kind of core group of guys? Because what it sounds like to me, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, is that your essentially your employees are are almost recruiting for you.
Yeah, and they're all incentivized to do it too. So there's incentives built into our model that that incentivize them not just to bring in people, but to bring in the right people.
Yes.
And we really hit that home a lot, where they're actually, once they're trained up, once they went to our through our roofing training academy, what happens then is then they have the ability to start bringing people on. Well, once they're doing that, they do realize that there's a time equation involved. And I say this both for myself and I say this for them. There's an 80-20 rule where the bottom 20% is always going to take up 80% of your time. And you want to make sure, okay, that as much as possible, you don't really have a bottom 20%. So being really methodical on who you're bringing on and, hey, are they the right fit? And just because they're your friend doesn't mean that's the right person to bring on board and everything like that. So the growth would not be possible without our training academy.
Yeah.
It's almost like a boot camp type thing, a 1 week long training academy that everyone's going through, and they learn both roofing, both the insurance, how to interface with the insurance company, how that whole intertwinement works, because it's really different from then, just doing a normal sale with the homeowner, how that works, spotting damage, everything like that, and really going into it from the surface level to some very granular stuff that can make them a lot of money. So we want, by the time they're out of the academy, that it's not just that they know the basics, but that they could speak at it at a high level. And any adjuster who meets them, any homeowner who meets them, thinks that they've been in roofing for 10, 20 years.
That's awesome. So, and that's a big thing, is putting your people in a position that they can achieve success, right? Instead of just throwing them to the wolves, like, hey, go out there and start wearing out your knuckles and boots. Like,
Yeah.
like here's a strong foundation. What was the thought process when you put that training system together, and I'm sure it's ever changing. A lot of a lot of good training programs, get tweaked along the way. What was the thought process, and did you build it from scratch, or did you kind of pull in some other, some stuff from other places?
Well, I mean, you actually hit one of the core thought processes there, where so many companies will give guys a polo shirt and say, like, all right, just knock some doors, get some people interested, tell them, we're going to do some work. Well, that hurts in two avenues. One, that hurts the salesmen because they're not trained and they don't know how to speak well, but it hurts the company as well, because that person is now a reflection on the brand. And we talk all the time, we're talking about the Blue Hammer brand. For us, it's a critical aspect. And any company that isn't thinking about themselves as a brand is doing themselves a disservice. Blue Hammer Roofing is one avenue, Blue Hammer Solar is another, but the Blue Hammer brand as a core for us is critical. So the last thing we wanted was that person being a representation of our brand in a way that isn't the representation of our brand that we wanted. But yeah, our training method and how we're doing that, our academy, even 3 months ago, is very different from where it is now. And there's always little tweaks. We sit down and we're always talking about 3 Ps: our people, our products that we're selling, and the process that we're going through. And the process is the most critical one. Getting good people is really important, but once you have good people, you need to make sure that you're selling the best product. And once you're selling the best product, you need to make sure, okay, the process that we're going through, that's the secret sauce behind most roofing companies. Is they might have great salesmen. Most of the top roofing companies, the top 10, are selling 3 pretty much brands of shingles. So what's going to set you apart? And it's the process, that secret sauce behind that nobody knows, that you're, okay, this is how we do this. This is how we do that. This is how you get more clients. This is how you get referrals. This is how, this is the prime time to meet clients. This is an avenue that you should go through. So all those types of things really make a difference down the road.
Nice, man. So then they're going through this rigorous training. And then So they're really prepared to hit the streets and do a good job and represent your brand
Yeah.
in the best way possible. I love that. Like
Yeah.
that's something that that every person with your shirt on,
Yeah.
they're out there, right? Like it's funny. I always, the funniest bad Google review that I see a lot is someone in their truck cut me off in traffic.
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
I've actually brought that up. We talk about getting our trucks wrapped, and I'm always like, well, are we going to trust, person X to drive safely? Because so one of the things I do is I study all the competition. I look through the reviews too, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen that as well. Like
like the funniest thing. So make sure you have a process for driving the truck from the office to the job site, right? Like, if you do have your people out there doing that, it's so funny that but that is a reflection of your brand, and it could come back as a Google review, but everything that your people do out in the field are going to reflect that brand, and that brand is very important. I had Joe Ayler with Tar Heel Construction on recently, and he had his logo in the background, and he was like, this is like, protect this with everything, right?
Yeah.
Protect this. That's the main focus. So that's that's a successful, that's the mentality of a successful business owner. So that's awesome. Now, okay, now you got these people trained, they're working for you, and now you're incentivizing them to attract, to bring in other people. Mm-hmm. Interviewing 10 to 20 people a week is insane, right? Yeah. I talk to companies all the time that can't find 5 people to work for them in a year. You're interviewing 10 to 20 people in a week, bringing on maybe 2 of them, maybe 5 of them, like you said recently, 10 of them. But how are you incentivizing your employees to do that?
Well, part of it is also now everyone knows how important the brand is. Part of it is buy-in to the brand and making sure, hey, that guy who's holding that shield that we were talking about, who do you want that person to be? And do you know anyone? So part of it is also just, do you believe in the culture, and do you want that culture to thrive? We try to, so we have a mantra for this year that we put together, and with everything I do, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there's a really good square block, I'm going to chisel it away and make it a wheel. So it's work hard, have fun, push the game forward. And it's kind of a mesh between a Amazon quote and a Kobe Bryant quote, which sums up who we are. We call ourselves like a tech roofing company, and it's both technology, championship culture, and then roofing all put together. And the have fun part of it, man, I've been in places before where I've made 6 figures, I've made a lot of money, but I didn't have fun doing it. And if you're not having fun doing it, what's the point? Honestly, what's the point? You can only do it for so long. So having fun has to be a core mantra. And our guys want to have fun with people they know, or things of that nature. So that falls into it. And then that whole push the game forward is both what they're buying into. Hey, let's push the game forward, both in the process that we have and in the people that we're bringing in these A+ people. They have financial incentives too, to really get to the core of your question. So there's financial incentives, but the financial incentives are actually tied to that person staying with the company, not just, some companies say, hey, we'll give you $250 if you bring someone in. Well, then you're going to get quantity and not quality. Mm-hmm. Our model is built on making sure it's a qualitative hire as opposed to a quantitative hire.
That's awesome. That's great advice. So when you're, let's see here, you also spoke to every deal should lead to 2 or more, right? Every deal should lead to multiple deals. So you've trained your salespeople, they're out in the field, they're recruiting bringing other people in that they want to work with. They're building you're building the team is growing, but they're not just focused on that one. Like, one and done, right? You're
Yep.
training them to have a mentality that it's not done with that one sale.
Yeah.
What
And
can you
yeah,
speak
so
to that a little
that's
bit?
based on two things. One, like truly caring. In sales, it's so easy to say, "Hey, I got the sale and now I'm done." But if you actually truly care about after the sale is done, now getting that to completion and making sure um, that homeowner is ranting and raving. We call it world class customer service. We want to have world class customer service because if you just have a project and that person instantly forgets who you are, it's over. You want to do something that leaves something in sight. For some people it's easier, in some projects it's easier than others where that person's been denied by insurance several times and we're able to help them navigate through that process to a certain extent. So yeah, they're already going to do that. But a lot of people, there's 300 roofing companies here in Dallas and everybody knows. I can't tell you how many times I've been out with the guys and someone says, "Oh, well, my cousin, my brother, my next door neighbor, so and so's a roofer." So especially in DFW, which is really saturated, you have to leave like just the best taste in that person's mouth, so that they love you from that process. They're leaving reviews, but they also feel someone who goes through a process that they're really, really in love with wants to share that love with someone else. So that's what we're doing. We're making sure every deal we do, that homeowner's so happy that they're saying, "Hey, my brother, my cousin, my neighbor who needs a roofer," and I'd be like over the moon thrilled to refer you. Um, and referrals is just it's really just the name of the game. Nobody wants bloody knuckles for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah,
At some
that's
point,
right.
and this was kind of a cool aspect from my beginning days of being a roofer. I remember my first season roofing. I had gotten into a new neighborhood, and no, it was brand new. It was all new homeowners. And this year, that neighborhood got hit again. And it was really just neat that that was my very first season roofing. And my phone was just going off with everybody calling me. And some of them were calling me saying, not that they were hit, but that, "Hey, someone I know who's in the affected area might need your services. Hey, could you help them out?" And it's just really, really neat to see those little seeds that you sprinkle and that you plant early on. Those are going to bear fruit, not just this season, not just next season, but it could be decades down the line of getting referrals from those individuals.
And that's a long-term mindset, right?
Yeah,
That's amazing. Like that is something that that people need to have to be successful in any business. Is it's not about today. I know sometimes we get caught up in that day to day. We need to, need to close the deal, need to close the deal, need that cash flow, need that cash flow, need that cash flow. But man, if you're really focused on providing that great customer service, it will pay off, right? If
yeah,
you do good work, that it's a common theme with people that I talk to on this on the podcast is if you do good work, you're like it's an amazing things happen from there. If you provide
yeah.
great, excellent customer service, if you go above and beyond, that pays off down the road. Do you guys do anything kind of special or unique on production day to kind of make the neighborhood know that you're there and that you're doing that build that day and you're taking care of that homeowner in that with that exceptional customer service?
Absolutely. So when we do a install, and you'll probably see it on our social media, when we do an install, it's a show. The circus is in town. We have tents that we put up with our logo. We have giant banners that go up as well, and we want everyone to know because we're going to be in and out so quick. A lot of people think, "Oh yeah, it's going to take multiple days." Almost any job we do, we're in and out in one day. So we want to make sure while people are driving by in the morning, because sometimes when they come back and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're already gone for that day. We might be done by noon, 2, 3 o'clock." So we want to really let them know early on our name, our number, our brand is everywhere on tents, signs, banners, flags, everywhere around that. And then our guys are also in that area as well, and
Yeah.
making our presence known. So it's not just the project manager who's doing that job. It's all the other project managers or several other project managers might be canvassing that area, letting people know, hey, you see that beautiful roof right there. We're currently working on that. We'll be done with it by noon to 3 o'clock. We'd love to do the same thing for you, and that just makes things much easier for us as a company as well.
Yeah, the best roofing company owners that I talk to understand whether it's storm damage restoration or retail, it's understanding how to turn that one customer into many
Yeah,
through referrals, through the show of the build in the neighborhood, knocking doors, sending letters, mailers, whatever you're doing, like whatever your process is for that. It could be unique to you, but the companies that I see succeed the most are the ones that have that ability,
yeah,
right? Like and that mentality, right? It's
yeah.
another thing too. What what is your unique selling proposition? How do you guys position yourselves? Dallas, I heard you say 300 roofers. I've heard other people say 8,000 roofers in the
Yeah,
DFW. So, so
it's
how do you,
a huge
how do you,
number.
it's a huge number. And so how do you guys position yourselves in the eyes of the consumer to show your value in that regard?
Yeah, well, honestly, things are getting exponentially easier for us because we've saturated markets. We made sure last year that we were really, really known. If we were anywhere, and I might have mentioned this to you when we talked before, but there's an Arnold quote, and it says, "Do something great, and then let people know that you do something great." So that's been us really making sure that anywhere we are, our name and our brand are somewhere. And I say this a lot, the brand, the Blue Hammer brand is very, very important. And whether it's the logo here that people start recognizing or the name itself, we just want by the time someone knocks your door, whether you've seen a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad, you've seen a post here, you've seen our sign at an intersection nearby, that it's a warm knock on the door, that it's not a cold knock where you're knocking somewhere, you're talking to someone and interfacing, and they have no idea who you are. It has to at least be, yeah, I do recognize your logo, or yeah, I might have seen, this, that, or the other. That it's the same way with McDonald's. The first time they put out an ad, you're like, I don't really want the McRib, and the next time you're like, it looks okay. And the third time you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go get a McRib. It's that oversaturation of marketing where a lot of times you need 3 or 4 impressions before that person is ready to convert.
Yeah, and sometimes even more, 7, 15 impressions,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it doesn't stop. I'll give a plug to myself real quick, Miguel. We just published our second book, and it's called The Best Known Roofer.
uh,
And that's what it's about, is how to become omnipresent in your market to your
yeah.
perfect customers. So check that out, guys, on Amazon, or get a free plus shipping on our website. But
Okay, let me write that down.
that's my little. I'll send you one, man. I'll send you one.
Great.
But that's the mindset, right? Being known to your perfect customer, right?
Yeah,
Having them aware that you exist, right? So that when they think about roofing, you come to their mind, and
absolutely.
yeah, that's a big thing. Give me an example of that Arnold quote in action.
Well, here's an interesting version of that, and it's a slight derivation, but it does still work. So recently, Dallas just had its first decent sized storm in a while. Our team went out, we saturated areas, and we were so omnipresent in certain neighborhoods and areas. I had roofers who came up to me, and they said, "Hey, we're not even going to go in that neighborhood. You guys have already locked it down." And there's hundreds and hundreds of homes still to be done there. And they're just like, "We tap out. We're going to go somewhere else." Because the appearance when they go in there is every single homeowner is already working with Blue Hammer. And it's a great feeling there of, no, we're working with Blue Hammer. And there's little things behind the scenes that we do that we're doing great work, but we're also making it known like, hey, this is essentially our territory. You might want to go on the outskirts of town and find some stuff there. So that was neat. It also has translated into how adjusters treat us, and that's a big. I think in the storm restoration field, a lot of companies have the mindset that it's an adversarial role. Like, hey, the insurance company is our enemy, and that's the worst thing you can ever do. The insurance company is paying this homeowner to restore their home, and you need to work hand in hand with them. So every single adjuster I meet, I don't care if they deny my claim. I'm going to shake their hand. Well, not in COVID. In COVID, I'm going to give them an air fist bump or whatever it is we're doing these days, and tell them, hey, I'm sorry, we couldn't come to an agreement on this one, but on the next one we will. And what that has led to is now when an adjuster sees us, they're like, hey, how are you guys doing? And I might not even personally know that adjuster, but they see the logo and they're like, man, yeah, I've met a couple of your guys earlier today. They're great guys. And this roof might be kind of marginal. And you never want it to be where you're the reason why someone's home is not getting restored. You want it to be that mindset. It's just like a judge. You're going to get some judges that are really strict and some that are lenient. And if there's ever a time where it's kind of close, you want to make sure that your name, your brand, hey, Blue Hammer Roofing, yeah, you guys do great work. I know you guys are going to take care of this person. It's a little bit close. It's right on the line, but I'm going to make sure that you guys get this job. Or I'm going to make sure that not necessarily you guys get the job, but that I approve the claim. Because if you guys do get the job, I know you will do the right thing behind it. So we've had little things like that have started exponentially popping up with insurance companies. It's just making sure you treat people the right way.
Do you attribute that a little bit to your background in that field?
I saw what happens when you treat them as adversaries, and I've seen what happens when you don't. And I've also seen people who have that instant gratification mindset of, I just need to win this roof. So I'm gonna bully this adjuster into buying this roof, and they might do it. They might approve that roof, but the next time they see you, they're already like, I really didn't like that guy. I didn't like how he went about his business. And it's just a long-term mindset of making sure, hey, we want to be in business for a really long time. Let's treat people a certain way. And it's starting to really work well for us.
That's awesome. And something that I kind of imagined and pictured when you were talking about like other companies being like, we're out of here. We're moving out of the neighborhood. You guys have took it over. It's because you pretty much have built an army, right? Of salespeople, right? Like,
it's the Blue Army.
I mean, you guys have built, you said by the end of the year, what's the goal by the end of the year? You said 75, 100 sales.
So we don't have a goal necessarily for people, because we don't want it to be, we don't want it to be a quantitative thing. It always has to be, quality has to be the underlying principle. We have sales goals, but as far as people, I can just see based on our projections, us being at 75 to 100 people. But if we're not there, that's not what we're about. What we're about is just growing in a sustainable and scalable model, which has been fun, because there's certain things you can do when you have 10 guys that when you get 20, 30, and 40 guys, you can't do. So we do sit down a lot and discuss, hey, is the process we're doing right now, is it scalable and sustainable? Because we want to make sure that we can grow with it. And if it's not, hey, let's change it now, as opposed to letting that linger, and down the road we can't really do anything with it. And I think that's where most owners actually have difficulty. They're really good. They're a really good personal salesperson, but they're maybe not great at figuring out a model that they can teach people that isn't going to depend on them doing almost every aspect of it. It has to be to a point where you're building leaders within your company who then you can delegate certain tasks to, so that then you're able to pull back and have that bird's eye vision at the company, and allow yourself to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. And every level was going to require uh, a more difficult step than the previous one.
Yeah.
I always say, and I used to be in tech sales. I worked at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for a while, and I helped companies to sell their technology, buy technology, or sell their business at large. And the one thing I noticed with a lot of companies is they might have a great first year, but it's the sophomore year that really hits them. And the reason why is because everything they did in year one, they've hit that plateau and they've hit that wall where it's not scalable and it's not sustainable. So they're still bringing in more people, but their process hasn't changed to a new process to allow that exponential growth to continue that way. And that's something we've sat down a lot, the five of us, and it's good. It's a very deliberative body that we have, where we all make up this central nervous system that's going to run every part of our company, where we're going to sit down and really talk about it. And sometimes it's frustrating, right? Because you're like, I have the best idea ever. As a company, we need to do this. We need to do X, Y, and Z. What you don't realize is you're actually missing this other vision. The guy who might be focused on quality isn't realizing how that's going to impact the salesman, and the person who's focused on the back end isn't realizing how that's going to hurt the front end. So being deliberative in that sense forces us to look at it from that 360 view and make sure that any decision we make with our people, product, process, scalability, and sustainability is really having that bird's eye view on it.
Yeah, and that's awesome, and that is that's the struggle in an organization, right? It's the sales, just to make it simple, the sales team and the operations and production side of thing in a roofing business. It's like it's almost a conflicting thing sometimes, right? Like, man, you're selling too many jobs. Like, we got to do this. Right. We're trying to get we're trying to, perfect our build over here, and you're throwing so many at us that it's a struggle in that regard. What are some of those struggles that you guys have come across in those meetings, where maybe operations or HR or accounting or something has seen that you've uncovered a conflict that you didn't think you would have when you were kind of initially putting it together?
So you actually hit upon one of the biggest ones that we're now doing, where and it's good. It's a great problem to have, where you train up someone, you have this training academy, and guys are coming out super hot, and they're coming out so hot that they're selling 10, 20 deals, and it's someone who maybe doesn't necessarily know how to manage 10 or 20 deals so our salesmen are also project managers, and really hitting home, you're not just a salesman, you're a project manager as well. So yeah, this person's capable of selling 40, 60, 70, 80 deals. But is that really the best thing for getting back to that world-class customer service? Sometimes you have to take the pedal off the metal in one avenue to make sure that, okay, I'm really servicing those clients and giving them that world-class customer service. Because if you sell 100 deals, but you're not really pushing them through that production the way it should, and really giving them that extra TLC, because they did buy to a certain degree because of the company, but they also bought for a certain degree because of that salesperson, and they want them involved. They want to see their face. They want to have text messages. They want to have, all those types of things. So figuring out that right balance as well of how many deals should a new project manager or an established project manager, how many can they manage? Or better yet, how to help them manage that, and making sure that they have the right support system. And that's the same way we work as the executive team as well, where we've sectionalized that work. So having that same mindset with our salesmen. Most of them are really good at sales, and maybe right off the bat, they're not going to be the best at everything else. So sectionalizing and compartmentalizing certain aspects of their job until they're ready for it. And then once you're ready to crawl, we'll help you crawl. Once you can walk, we'll help you walk. And once you can run, all right, we're going to take the crutches off and let's start running. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Making sure we're nurturing every part of that growth.
That's awesome, man. What from a I guess from a sales perspective, how do you define a successful salesperson in your business? Would that be, a $500,000 producer, $1 million producer? They have to be a $2 million producer. Where does that lie in your mind?
So that's an interesting question. So I was the top salesman at another roofing company. So I know two different ways to really manage that and to think about that. And my thought process as an owner of the company is actually how their significant other feels. It isn't how much they're selling. It isn't how many jobs they have. It isn't how much money is in their bank account. It's really how their spouse or significant other is feeling at any point in time, because that's where you lose, guys. You don't lose. We have workhorses. They will work themselves into a grave, and then really making sure that they're doing the right things to take care of themselves now and in the future and their family. And if you're not thinking long-term family-wise, that's where you lose people. If that significant other isn't bought in. So I think of each salesman of what they can really push through and still have that family culture or that work-life balance where they're still happy on that other end. For me, that's a lot. I could say $1 million. I can say that they're making $20,000 a month, but I've personally been one of the saddest points in my roofing career was the month I made $60,000, and I was like, I'm miserable. This is awful. So I think of it from a different perspective because I've also been that person who was selling, and selling just to sell is one thing, but I want to make sure that you're also taking care of the other avenues of your life as well.
That makes sense. And that's that thinking with the mindset of long-term retention.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't burning people out is not the best. Maybe you can make a little bit more money this year, but you're not going to be happy doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're thinking about ways out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many $1 million salesmen I know who are no longer selling, and it's kind of crazy. Like, why would you leave? You were making the most money you've ever made in your life. Well, and it's because that other aspect of their life wasn't nurtured. So making sure that we do that is mission critical for the individual and mission critical for us as a company. I don't want to spend all this time training guys through our roofing training academy just for next year to have to do 40 more guys because the original 40 are all gone. It has to be a long-term mindset of what's really working with keeping guys and keeping them happy. So sometimes if a guy's a $500,000 salesperson and they're doing great and they're managing everything well and they're happy doing that's okay as well. Do we want to still push that extra, like I said, that extra 20% of greatness out of them that they could achieve? Absolutely. But do we want to do it to the detriment of the long-term happiness of them or the company or losing them overall? Absolutely not. So that's mission critical for us.
How do you plan on, in your growth and as you guys are kind of a little bit further away from the process or from their day-to-day lives, how, it's probably a lot easier to know if their spouse is happy when you have 10 salespeople, right?
Yeah.
And you're in the morning meeting with them and you're, like things like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on doing that at scale? For at scale, I guess that's,
because you can manage it with 10, maybe you can manage it with 40. You're definitely not gonna be able to do it with 1,000. There's no way at 1,000 that you can know everybody to that same degree and level. So then you have to trickle down. Maybe I won't personally know him, but I need to know that that next tier, which is what we call our leadership group, that leadership group, okay, they're taking that responsibility. And then as that goes down, the same thing as we open more offices and do other things like that maybe I don't personally know, but I can reach out to whoever their direct leader is, and hey, what's going on with Jim? Hey, how's Jim's wife? How are his kids? What are their names? And that's a big thing of, don't I never want to be that person who goes up and I'm like, hey, how's your wife? I want to be able to say, hey, how's Lisa doing? How's Mateo doing? How are your kids? What's going on? And I want to be that person, or be able to quickly be that person. If I'm walking into a meeting 3 years from now and we have offices all over, and I'm going to our Nebraska office, I want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to meet with Tim. Before I meet with Tim, I want you to tell me how he's doing work-wise, what his numbers are, what his wife's name is, what his kids' names are, and hell, even tell me what his dog's name is. And let's get like a little bit personal. So not that it's just work, but it's also so that way we can extract that information quickly. But that has to be, if I can't do it, someone else needs to know it, and I need to be able to get that information pretty quick.
Yeah, so that's built in, right, to the 3 Ps, to the Marcus Lemonis method there.
Yeah.
Love that show. Yeah, that's a great show. So you guys do a lot of stuff on social media, and that's been a big part of, as you'd mentioned, like with some of the attraction that you've and things like that. What is your thought process in your content creation?
Work hard, have fun, push the game forward. And all three of those things have to be represented in our social media. That one, that we're a hardworking company. Two, that we're having fun while we're doing it. And three, that we're doing some things that, like, I get calls when we started doing solar, I got calls from other roofing owners asking me, hey, so yeah, that is a very logical vertical to do. We're already on the roof. Well, we should be putting solar on it as well. So I want not just our consumers, but other companies and other brand partners to realize that, because then what happens is people are reaching out and we're making strategic connections, and really pushing the game forward in roofing helped us push the game forward in solar, where we actually, before we went solar, we had solar guys reaching out to us and saying like, oh yeah, you guys should do solar. And the information kind of came to us to a certain degree rather than us having to find the information.
Have you, we're in spring of 2021 for people that are listening later on. And there was just, some recent weather activity down in Texas. How do you feel that recent weather activity down in Texas is going to impact your solar business?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, the lights went out on Texas.
Lights went out on Texas. Yeah.
It was almost a statewide blackout to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It was a very advantageous time frame for us. And I don't know, have you read The Alchemist, Jim?
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. There's a quote from that, like, when you do something bold, that the universe conspires in your favor. And that was kind of how we felt there. Like, we took a bold leap jumping into solar, and at that point in time, the universe kind of helped us to a degree to get solar going, because after the lights went out on Dallas, and really the state, we had everybody calling us and realizing, solar is the future. We can't just rely. We need a multifaceted grid structure, that we can't rely on any one source, and solar being that as well. We can't just rely on solar. We can't rely on electrics and fossil fuels. We can't rely on wind. Some of the wind turbines even froze up because they weren't treated for this type of weather. No one ever thought Dallas would get -5 degrees. So they didn't treat them the same way they do up north. So there was a lot of things like that have kind of transpired from that after it went down. But yeah, our phones were definitely ringing, and we had some clients who had said, yeah, I'm going to wait for it. I don't really think we need it now. And they quickly changed their mind as well.
Yeah, that is a great integration in services for sure. Yeah. Speaking to that quote, I think it's the same thing with what you said on your social media, and you might not have thought of that as being bold, but I think for a lot of people it is being bold, going out there and telling the story of your company online, and documenting that in video form, which you do very well, and having fun while you're doing it, right? That is bold, and that I would, is part of what that the universe is brought back to you, right? By doing that. So that's a tip for everyone. It doesn't have to be as bold as going into solar. It could be as bold as just putting your face on camera a little bit. Like that's bold enough to start moving that attraction towards your company.
Yeah.
What do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that has helped Blue Hammer find success in roofing, and what you think will make it succeed for the long term?
Strategic partnerships. It always has to be strategic partnerships. And I mean this in every way, like top down. Strategic in our executive team, the reason we all work together, but also strategic with all of our vendors. There's a reason we're working with the installers that we do, the suppliers, the manufacturers, and it's always that when I talk to you, Jim, that I actually am feeling that we actually have a connection beyond the fact that you sell me shingles, or beyond the fact, just making sure that you might even take 5% off of the product itself versus that relationship. Maybe it's the second best product and not the very best product, or maybe it is still the best product, but that relationship, that strategic partnership, and making sure you're building those. If you have the very best product that's being sold, but that relationship or that supply chain isn't working well, then it doesn't matter, because you're not going to get the product to the people and your consumers in a way that's really going to work. So strategic in every avenue of what you're doing, and making sure that everyone everyone you're interfacing with, that you're doing it for a reason, and being methodical on how you're doing that.
Great. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors: How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.